a good one. Anyway, he talks about that stuff, and I recommend his book, Triumph of the City. But also, if you want to read my book, you can do that too, which is The Wealth of Cities. It's in its third printing, and you can read even more of the stuff I've been talking about. And then finally, what do I think of, well, what's my impression of Wilmington? I've been here twice, so I'm not much of an expert on it. But I have been up and down the coast. I've been to Charleston, I've seen Mobile, I've seen Savannah, I've seen the cities in Florida. And Wilmington has, you know, all kinds of things that are going for it that you already know, the great site of the Cape Fear River, the history, the historic buildings. No, all kinds of ingredients are here. And there may be obstacles to you getting where you need to go, and for that you need to study and discuss things and work them out, and in some cases argue over them. But ultimately, you're very blessed the fact that you have a design legacy that left to the city that you can build on. There are gaps in it. There are things that need to be fixed. Your sprawl is just about as ugly as anybody else's sprawl in the country, but you can refit it. You can work on it. You can get the community together. You can make it more urban. You can demand from the state of North Carolina that anything they do here should add value to the places where they do it. You can talk to your DOT, raise your back up straight, hold your head high, and talk to the DOT, and don't let them just talk to you like you're someplace that they want people to drive through, but you're an important place where they have to do things carefully and thoughtfully. And the same thing is true with all of the other government levels in Raleigh and so forth. Wilmington's an important city. North Carolina needs Wilmington more than Wilmington needs North Carolina.
Amen.
Empires come and go, national governments come and go, states, provinces, they all come and go throughout human history, but cities endure. If you look at it, like Damascus, it's been around for 4,000 years. And it's had some of the worst governments over it. You know, the Greeks, the Romans, whoever the guys in there now, Foss or whatever his name is. You know, brutal governments, but that city is a fabulous city, and that's really true. And so you need to look at it that way. Wilmington is really an important place, and if somebody says, "Where are you from?" you can say proudly, "You're from Wilmington." Or if you're defensive about it, you can be like Ed Koch, it was so necessary to have his attitude back in those days, right after New York almost defaulted, and Koch would say, "I'm from New York City. You got a problem with that?" He had an attitude. He wasn't pathetic. He was tough. And you know, sometimes that's the way you have to be. But anyway, I would be very optimistic about the future of your city. Raise your sights, aim high, unify around the common objective of adding value. Thank you very much. If you have a few questions, I know some of you may have, you know, like a dental appointment you have to go to. Anybody have any comments, questions, attitude issues? Okay.
I have a question. Having been both a mayor and having been both a state legislator, what is Wisconsin like as far as cities being able to do things on their own? How much are they dependent upon states? I've found that part of the situation here is that we can't take too many moves one way or another. A lot of times with very many rules and regulations, the state is involved with that. What was your situation in Wisconsin?
Well, Wisconsin has a lot of local control on regulatory matters. There's some things like, you know, environmental regulations where they maybe be more state control. But like getting our river walking place, we had to deal with the Department of Natural Resources that traced the regulation and enforcement, saying you could have no commercial activity on the river, back to the Articles of Confederation, which I said, well, how do we change that? Everybody that designed it is dead. They said, there's nothing you can do. It predates the Constitution. You know, basically, you're out of luck. And we finally got them to back off of that position, and they allowed some places. Otherwise, they were saying it had to aid navigation, so only the rich people could bring their boats along the river. But you could, the working person couldn't come down and have a glass of beer next to the water. So we worked that out. But, you know, as far as money goes, the state was very generous with cities that this shared revenue program. When the income tax passed in Wisconsin in 1913, they eliminated a lot of local taxes and gave part of the income tax revenue to the cities. Now that's pretty much been pulled back, and so they can't do the old taxes, and they don't get the, because the state took all the income for themselves. So financially, it's a really tough situation. It varies around the country. I would say one thing that's different is that because North Carolina has a lot of cities, there's not just one overwhelmingly dominant city. Charlotte's the biggest one, but the Triangle, Wilmington, you know, there's various cities that have an identity with the regional hinterland. You're very fortunate that way because you don't get the kind of thing in Wisconsin, you get this ganging up on Milwaukee. Chicago's so big that it's able to defend itself. There's, you know, just under 3 million people in Chicago out of 11 million people in the state, so they have enough members of the legislature to protect themselves. In Wisconsin, it's 600,000 people with 6.5 million, so the ratio is not as good. So that can be a problem. And that's really a problem for Detroit. I mean, for all of Detroit's things it's done to itself, and they've done a lot of things to themselves that are bad, but the state of Michigan has treated Detroit very badly for years. In fact, the suburbs of Detroit, in Macomb County, for example, when they build more sewer capacity in Macomb County, Macomb only pays for the sewer capacity cost within Macomb County. When it comes into Wayne County and into the city of Detroit, the people, the taxpayers in the city of Detroit, pay for the increased capacity to handle Macomb County by state law. I mean, that was just brutal. They had the power and they stuck it to them. And so you're very fortunate in North Carolina that you have a distribution of cities, and so there's not, the hatred doesn't build up. I suppose it does a little bit with Charlotte, because it's the biggest one, but probably not so much as other places.
John.
Yeah. The mayor's preempting this.
Well, no, we've got some, I'm going to preempt him. Being you're the mayor, you came in, did you see any kind of regulation, ordinance, law that was a hindrance to private development that you eliminated or you thought needed to be eliminated?
Yeah, when I met with the planners earlier this morning, I had a slide that showed what the development process looked like for developers. You know, having to go again and again and again back to City Hall to get permits and go to different buildings. You know, it's not that we were having much development, but if we ever did, we were ready to say no or come back tomorrow. My image of it was like in The Wizard of Oz, where, you know, Dorothy and the Scarecrow and everybody, they come up to the Great Oz, and the guard comes and says, "Come back tomorrow, Oz." You go get the witch's broom and then come back and we'll think about it. You know, and it really was a problem. And, you know, there was a time in the first half of the 20th century where Milwaukee could build up regulations that everybody wanted to be there, and they could be like that. But we had reached a point where we weren't getting development. So the process stuff, you know, you need a good code that gives you the kind of city you want, you know, the urbanism you need. But if a developer complies with that code, they should get things as of right. It should be as quick as you can make it, you know. 2 months, 3 months, all permits in. They shouldn't be able to do stuff that's going to hurt the value of the city, though. So there is a balance. But if you have processes that require long contemplation, like a design review board, I mean, outside of the historic district where maybe that makes sense, but a design review board, then everything ends up being ad hoc, and delay becomes automatic, and everything, the respect for the regulations disappears. So you don't want that. You want to have a good code, easy to read, gives you urbanism that adds value. And once you have that, then you want a process where developers can get done what they need to get done. and add value to the city.
In your 16 years, there was an interesting thing involved in downtowns and in downtown Milwaukee too, and that's the evolution of the business improvement district. How did you see it improve or hurt economic development in Milwaukee? What's your perception?
Well, the good thing about the business improvement district is that it's something that the businesses vote to create themselves. And so they have to voluntarily basically tax themselves. And the threshold